What's up, guys? Welcome to Operation B, the podcast. I am your host, Jamie Thurber, and I am here to take you on a journey of deepening, of expansion, of understanding more about who you are and why you're here and how to operate in an optimal way that allows you to do what you want to do, feel how you want to feel, take care of yourself truly, and support everything that your heart desires. All right, guys, welcome back to another episode of Operation B. So today I have a woman on that has been literally life-changing to me and been a part of a lot of the journey. I looked it up this morning because my mind forgets years because what is time? And it was like the end or it was right at the very beginning of 2020, right before COVID that we met. And we've worked together in some capacity ever since. So Jessi is, I call her my coach, but she is a lot more than that. It's hard to explain sometimes. So I'm going to let Jessi, with Wild Essence and also lots of other companies, introduce herself a little bit and tell you kind of how she helps people.
Sure. Hi, thank you for having me. I'm obviously ecstatic to spend any time with you that I get to. So thank you for letting me be here. I guess I would describe myself at this chapter of my life as primarily an embodiment mentor, in the sense that I really focus my energy on supporting people and coming home to their body, but also to the body of everything, right? Like to our capacity for relationships, to our relationship to Earth home, so that we can participate in our lives through a lens of actually having a conversation with everything that is, rather than stomping around on top of our world, hoping that it's all going to work out in our favor. So I would say that that's the easiest way I can explain myself today. I'm a ritualist. I'm a witch. I'm a magical practitioner. I'm a spiritual individual, mostly earth-based spirituality. So that's like my kind of primary thread, but that's the best I can do for today.
I know. Well, you could just keep going for like the next hour with all of the things. Yoga instructor, like all the stuff. So me and Jessi met by chance, actually. We had followed each other on social media, and then I happened to take a trip with my friend Samantha. And I wasn't going to go with her to her session with you. And you were like, hey, she can come if you want. And so I wound up there, and then it wasn't very long after that I did an apprenticeship with you for how long is that? Like 14 months or something? A year?
It's more than a year, because you extended it afterwards. We did a year and then an extra 6 months, I think.
Yeah. And so, guys, whenever things really hit the fan with me physically and my health, I knew I was sitting at the house with Tony, and as you guys hear a lot of my stories with this, I'm like sitting in my bed and my body's panicking and I'm freaking out. And we're talking, and I told him, I was like, even if tomorrow the doctors gave me something or all the answers or something that took away every symptom that I had, I knew that after 20 years of dealing with this, everything does this, guys. It all piles on top of each other, and it all becomes this big complex thing. And so I told him, I was like, if we're going to do this, I have to hire Jessi, because there's so much more to it than just the physical health aspect. And so I talked to her. I think I sent you like a sobbing voice note that evening, actually. And then she's been with me holding my hand basically through the whole process, because something that I've touched on with you guys here on the show, but I was excited to talk to Jessi about, to have her explain it maybe a little bit more, is that when you're body has gone through something physically, we've discussed the mental aspect of how it completely messes with you, but then there's also a physical emotional aspect too of how it manifests and things like that, and it's the piece of the puzzle that my brain knows is there but doesn't know how to handle or didn't know how to handle. And so that's Jessi's jam. So she stepped in and helped me not completely spiral into oblivion.
Oh, I love this. I love this. We're just untangling the necklaces, really, right? Like it's very much just the body holds so much memory, and the way that the organism processes and the conversation that it's having with its life doesn't always fit the mental constructs that we'd like it to, right? We're like, come on, body, do the things that I want you to be doing right now. And the body's like, I'm terrified. I need food. There's
Right?
other things happening here. So it's learning how to listen. We've
Yeah.
spent so much time learning how to really listen
Yeah.
and come home to that conversation, which has been really profound for me.
Yeah, it's been great. I'll never forget. So you guys know Bonnie, my dog, who's like my soulmate creature, passed away very abruptly, very unexpectedly, in like a terrible fashion. And when that happened, it was kind of around the same time that my body was really peaking in its worst. And what was funny was I swore that I could not ground or feel grounded anymore because I didn't have Bonnie. And it made me question everything about myself. It made me think, oh my gosh, was I ever actually able to ground in the first place? Like maybe it was just her, because she'd feel me upset wherever she was in the world or in our house, she'd come running. It was a distressing feeling, right? To think, oh my gosh, well, this creature is no longer present with me, and now I can't feel and calm myself down. I don't know what to do. And so it was one of our first sessions together that Jessi was like, but okay, let's talk about this. And we're like talking about grounding and talking about how that feels. And she was like, I don't even know how you presented it, but something about like, how do your legs feel? Yeah. And I was just like, I don't feel my legs. Like, I don't know. I don't know how to answer this question.
Exactly.
Like they're not there. I don't know. And I'm like, well, no wonder I can't ground, because I genuinely was so disconnected. Can you explain to people a little bit more about when this, I know that you see this in a lot of different ways, and it really ties into somatics, but the way you speak about somatics is wildly different than I believe the masses do, and the way you describe it makes way more sense. So
I could do the best I can, yeah. I mean, so somatics is the body and of the body and what is occurring in the organism, right? So that the actual word soma just means body. So it's interesting how we glamorize and create lots of additional meanings, but it just means body. And it's the relationship that the body's having to its environment at any given time. And our choice to enter into the awareness of what that conversation looks like, right? So we're deciding to notice whether or not the body is having a conversation with the external world. So in that case, your legs, noticing that your legs were having a conversation with the external world is one area of awareness. Like my feet are touching what, right? This thing outside of me. Before we can go to that inside, like what does it feel like inside my hip sockets? That's an internal awareness. So it's extro and interoception. So we have this like foot is touching earth is one kind of point of awareness. What does it feel like to have a bone insert into a socket? That's an inside awareness. And then any other internal sensations that we have, that's just the sensory awareness aspect of this. Mm-hmm. And within the sensory information is often entanglements of emotional information and memory. So the experience of working in soma or tending to soma, which I really feel like it's a lot more like garden tending than it is anything else. It's very much just like taking care of the root systems, making sure that they can orient to their surroundings, and then making sure that the internal nourishment and capacity for nourishment, which is not just what you're putting in your body in terms of food, it's what you're consuming in every way, right? It's the way you're breathing. It's, are you sensing gravity? It's, what do your relationships feel like? All of that is determining how your body is orienting to whether or not there is threat, danger, or safety present, right? Your body is assessing based on all of the stimulus that you're exposed to all the time, 24/7. So your body's going, are we okay? All the time. And I mean, look at the world. Yeah. What do you think the body's, that's the stimulus we're receiving. So of course it's like, even on the best day, it's like, are you, so we have to really work for that, right? We have to really work to get that feedback system to receive. Yeah.
That's huge. It's huge. So the gravity piece, while you were talking, I'm thinking, I can feel gravity. Where can I feel it? Because that was huge. And that was one of the first things I was able to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because everything, when you have such an overwhelming situation going on, guys, it's enough to make you feel insane for a lot of reasons. And one of them is you're like, you don't understand what's going on in your own body. So what do? We fly out. And I remember even being in, because you guys know I've gone down all the spiritual pathways before, is people telling me, oh, it's just because you're this way, like this is about your soul, or you're this, whatever. And so I used to think that was just normal. But what I realized was my anxiety, my avoidance, my ability to get shit done, Operation Do, right, was all a result of me disassociating. And so learning what that truly meant and how to bring it back. And now I have not perfected this by any means. It's just wildly different. And what I think is cool about this work that we're talking about, just to like let everybody give them a little perspective, is like, don't think of this as something that you can't cultivate for yourself. It reminds me of things like when we're talking about changing mindset, right? And we're rewriting storylines in our mind. It's very, very similar, guys. That's what I've experienced, is that if you can relate to anything regarding that, then you can give yourself that same pathway, to start to learn how to listen to your body and ground, like find gravity and not float outside of yourself every time, right?
Yeah, I mean, everything that the way we learn is habitual, right? So whatever we repeat on purpose, the body starts to have a relationship with, right? So if we are intentionally going, I'm going to sense for down, I'm going to sense for, because what happens when we do work with gravity stuff, when we do work with the extroception of like, I'm in this room and there are lights and that's behind me and here I am right now, you're presencing, which is really oftentimes one of the primary teachings that comes from pretty much every lineage of thought that is at all beneficial to the human body, is like, be here now. Way harder than it sounds, right? Like, it's mentally, most of the time our thoughts are before and after and not now. And so to actually presence requires us to have that habit of going, how do I know I'm present, right? Like, how do I know I'm here? Sensing gravity is a really potent way to check in with like, oh, now I know I'm now because I'm noticing what's happening in this moment, right? So that those external awarenesses are a really profound habitual tool that can be, and we've talked about, like, you can just have like something that when you see it, like if it's sitting on a counter or you put, something somewhere and you're like, whenever I see that, I'm going to do this thing where I notice where down is. I'm going to notice that I'm in this moment. I'm here in this body. But we avoid the present moment because it's hard, right? We avoid what's here because what's here sometimes comes with everything that's ever been here. And that's the backlog that you and I have talked about, where it's like sometimes the emotions that are present in the system, alongside the sensations that are usually tangled up like necklaces, are compounded, as you were mentioning before. So sometimes the anxiety of one moment is actually 20 years of anxiety kind of culminating in that moment. And so one of the potent tools with presencing is we're able to look at the lens of like, how much of this is actually about the right now moment and how much of it is old. And the old stuff needs to be tended to, just like a weird old garage. Like, it has to be tended to. You do eventually have to open all those boxes and decide whether you're keeping them or not, and what's going to the thrift store. Like, you are going to have to do that. But if you can differentiate between, this is the present moment, like irritation I'm experiencing, versus the 20 years of frustration that have led up to why it feels big in the body, sometimes that can help the figure it out parts to be okay with the fact that it's big, right? They're like, oh, well, of course, because it's old, right? So that it makes sense to those parts, and then they tend to spend less of your energy trying to understand why you feel a feeling, and more of your energy can be utilized for actually digesting the stimulus and the information that's presenting in your system.
I know, it's mind-boggling, you guys. Like, and
Yeah.
the coolest part is I'm not going to have her go down the science route as much, but like this is all
It's all science.
very, very science-based, right? So it's not like magical. It is magical, but because our body it's wild. The interpretation or lack thereof, really, the lack of interpretation of what's going on in our own systems. And so the thing that I've learned, I remember realizing, I don't even know how to describe this. It was actually in our first, during apprenticeship, and we were sitting there, we were talking about depth of things and depth of feelings and not needing to understand every single thing, which I am that gal, right? I am an intellect. I want to intellectualize everything, and that's my way of controlling it. And so I remember sitting in Jessi's house and feeling into these different feelings and understanding that I didn't need to know where they originated from. But in that, do you remember when the dream, my grandma dream?
Yep, I do.
So we were just talking, and I don't even know how it came out, but somehow we were talking about, so I have this consistent pain, which has gotten exceptionally better, that lives behind this shoulder blade. So I used to go the workout route. We go to the doctor. I've had cortisone shots. I've had all the things, right? And eventually we found that there was a little something going on there, but like I got my range of motion back. So the pain that's there is definitely not from those pieces, like the physical piece. So we were talking about this and going and sitting with that. And I had this reoccurring dream my whole life that I could remember. And I never saw the person's face, but like, I'm going to try to keep this brief because I could tell the long version, but I saw the backside like of a little girl, right, in the country. And she was like running through this field. And it was just never was a sad dream, but it was a heavy dream. But I had it all the time. And it was just this very strange sensation. But when we were dealing with pockets of stuff that's tucked away that we're not even aware of is there, what we realized from that was, so my grandmother, my mom's mom, her oldest daughter died around, I think she was like 2. So barely walking, like, trotting around, and they lived in the mountains. And her name is Betty. And so it was Betty. Like it was a grief thing that I had carried because my grandma had 14 children. So she didn't have room to grieve that loss. She didn't have, like, the only photo we have of Betty is in her coffin. So like my mom never met her because she's the youngest, whatever. But anyway, like to learn about and realize that a grief that occurred in my lineage, because I'll let Jessi explain how women live in women forever or whatever, how that goes. But like, that's what it was. And after we released that emotion, like I cried probably harder than I could have ever imagined. And I've never had the dream again.
Epigenetics.
Like you can't make that up. No. So explain how that trauma from my grandmother goes through my mom and into me so other people understand.
Well, you were in there. You were in your grandmother's body because you were in your mother's body that was always in. So all the eggs that a woman's ever going to have are in their body from conception. So in the moment that your mother was conceived and she started to develop inside of your grandmother, much of the genetic data that became your body existed inside of your grandmother's body. And so any emotional information that lived in her body, and emotion does live in your biology. Like we know this because they test tears, and depending on the emotion, the chemical construction is different. So like there is biological evidence that emotion is chemical, right? And so any chemical emotion that your grandmother experienced while your mother was inside of her, while you were inside of your mother, you felt. Your body was wired with that information. So the idea that we are separate from our ancestral lineage, like it's not just a philosophical concept. Like you are made of the memories and the experiences of the people that came before you. And it doesn't mean that it's your job to, fix any of that stuff, but you are going to be, I think, presented, and this is more my kind of philosophy. I think you'll be presented with opportunities to close loops and to feel what maybe couldn't be felt because they were too busy doing all the other stuff they were doing, or like you'll get to feel the fullness of being human that they didn't, if you choose that route for your life, right? Like they prayed for the opportunities that we have to experience, to be on a podcast, to women talking about the kind of stuff that we're talking about. That's the kind of world that our great 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 grandmothers couldn't have even fathomed.
Yeah.
So like it's that kind of stuff that we get to, in this lifetime, if we choose it, we get to reconcile some of those pieces and say, I'll feel this in my lifetime. Because even opening her door of grief, this is something I find kind of interesting because there's a lot of grief in my community right now. Her opening her door of grief in your body, any other grief that was living in your body, whether it be for Bonnie or anything that had recently happened, it'll all run out that same door, because grief just waits for any door that opens. So it could have even, like, from a more maybe sweet spiritual place, that door opening could have been your grandmother's gift to you to move some of your own through that doorway too, whether or not you needed to know which thing it was. If it helped move something that was trying to move through your system, that's all that matters. Your body was trying to digest something. Mine, hers, ours. Does it really matter? If it's here, it's yours to tend.
Yeah, no joke, right? I know with thinking about it that way helped find. The thing for me has been the words that you say to me a lot, and that's okay.
And that's okay.
Right? And we talk about all these things that live in our minds, all these things that happen in our bodies that we think we have to figure out and we have to give a name to, and we have to, whatever. and it was such a gift, and it still is a consistent gift for me to say things to myself like, I feel X frustration, like current frustration is this kitchen project. I feel we have a big kitchen project going on here, guys, at the studio. Like, I feel X frustration about this thing. So 2 giant lessons that Jessi has helped give me are, I'm allowed to feel frustrated. That doesn't make me bad. That doesn't make the situation bad. That doesn't mean that I hate it. That doesn't mean that I don't want it to happen. Frustration is just an emotion that I'm allowed to have. Number 1. Number 2, I'm allowed to say that and not have to explain it, not have to fix it or whatever it is. And that phrasing, and that's okay, comes when you're letting yourself express your emotions. And so girl who did not express her emotions for very, very many years, and that started years before this stage of our work, was me being able to have feelings. I remember being at your house the very first time we ever met, and I was like, and I feel, and you were like, is this where you feel, Jamie? Or is this where you think? And I was like, oh yeah, no, you feel down here in your heart, not your brain. So just these physical disconnections that I had created to be safe and be able to function. And even then we didn't know what we know now in our journey. We didn't realize why the depth of the reasons why just yet, because it is a cultivation piece. That's why what I do love too is that it's a consistent journey. There's no destination point. Can you explain what you mean when you say how the goal is to learn how to titrate?
Sure. Yeah. Because the reality is you're going to continue to be presented with stimulus that is intense. Like you're not going to be bubble boying yourself from hard things. And so titration it's another scientific term that's utilized in a lot of polyvagal theory conversations. It's basically like, can I digest a little bit at a time, right? So if the instance comes in which there is a lot of sensation, a lot of emotion, our work, similarly to you saying, and that's okay, is to parent our system with as much care and compassion as possible. And we have been socialized to treat our bodies like machines. And when machines don't work, we kick them and we poke them and we like plug them out and plug them back in really aggressively and we swear at them. And this is kind of what we've been doing to bodies. And it's like, well, organisms don't respond like machines. So adding more pressure, more stress, more intensity to an already kind of overstimulated organism tends to be counterproductive. It doesn't work. So titration is like, how much can you digest in this moment? Like, how much are you willing to feel that right now? And then letting that be enough and letting that be okay is how your system starts to trust you, that you're not going to just blow the roof off anytime that there is some kind of stimulus. And blow the roof off can sometimes be like, explosive catharsis, which sounds great in theory and might give you a tiny bit of euphoria for the moment because you just have like a lot of extra oxygen because you've been hyperventilating or whatever it is, right? Like there might be a tiny bit of like, oh, I'm relieved, but then there's this weird crash thing that happens or like a contraction on the other side of big cathartic experiences. And it's because oftentimes, in many instances, at least what I've seen, the really big, intense catharsis actually creates new micro traumas in the system because the body's like, ah! Because the reality is trauma is anything that is too much, too fast, or too soon. If the body can't, and we make it do it anyways, or it has to anyways, that is something that needs to be digested, right? It ends up becoming a weird little pocket. And it doesn't even need to be an identified pocket. There's just a weird little pocket that needs digestion, right? Like you don't even need to say, it's this from this day. There's just stuff there that we need to go through, right? Like we need to process. But the digestion of any kind of residual sensation or emotion can be titrated through the way we converse with the sensation. So it's similar to like, I am noticing there is a something. How much of that something can I be with right now, presently? Like, so that I can still feel my legs, I can still feel down, I can still orient to my space, I still feel like I can breathe. As soon as I kind of move outside that window of what feels like it's okay, it starts to be a bit of intensity. Now, this needs to be understood in order to complete and reconcile something. There is often this entering back into what you might call arousal. Arousal is like, whoa, again, right? So if the system has had a very intense thing and then it turned off all the lights, even if you turn the lights back on slowly, eventually the lights will be back on and you will see what's there. So there is this kind of going back up the roller coaster. I'm actually drawing the polyvagal theory line. There is this kind of going back into arousal, but that arousal has a completion where you return to feeling safety. So you're basically walking through the door again with your eyes open, with your inner parent leading and going, and we're okay, so that there gets to be a completion that feels like it's over, which is one of the biggest issues in our society right now, is that a long time ago, if there was a lion, he'd either ate you or you got away or you killed it. Like one of those things happened and it was done, right? Like there was an ending to that intensity. It might have been a really hard ending, a really sad ending, but it had an ending. Many of our stressors don't have completions. They're ongoing, they're chronic, and they're under the radar, so much so that we're not even noticing that the system still thinks it's running away for sometimes decades. So that's easy. I think the easiest way I can explain the titration is just coming in contact with what you've got going on a little at a time so that it doesn't overwhelm you all over again and scare your system back into sleeping mode.
Right. Or like full-blown disassociation because you tried to, Like, example, because of what my system has been through and the work that we're doing, this super duper popular cold plunging situation is a terrible plan for me Terrible plan. Like my body is just starting to trust me, like to put it in places to shock the hell out of it. Not a good idea right now. And then, but what's happening is, and I feel sadness for so many people who aren't able to have the kinds of conversations that we have, because the world is telling you this is so good for your inflammation, this is going to bring down your nervous system, this is going to help, blah 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 blah. And like, that may be true
for someone,
for many people, but that is not what's true for me. So if I didn't have you and we weren't having these conversations while the world is talking about my functional medicine, for example, is talking about the inflammation in my body, my mind hears cold plunging does this inflammation. And then maybe I try that. And then what I would do instead is put myself back into this cycle of, well, we don't trust you, Jamie. Body doesn't trust Jamie because you keep putting me in these terrible, fearful situations. As you were talking, it made me think this was actually like kind of a perfect segue for another thing I was going to ask is like, I say this a lot to people in conversation, and I think they often probably, I noticed this morning when I was thinking about our talk today, I was like, I really don't know if anybody ever actually acknowledges what I mean when I say this, because I think they're probably like, what the hell? But about our body in today's world and how it was not designed to eat the same thing every day and have things flashing at it and in our ears and running around and not being in community. And there's all the things about, if you think about cavemen, our ancestry, like what our bodies were designed to do, that is not what we're doing anymore. So it sets us on this like almost impossible feeling path. But people don't know, they're not noticing this, and they don't understand why it's making their lives so much more difficult.
It's because we think we've evolved. And I think it's funny.
Right.
Because the organism hasn't, right? Like maybe our mental process has, but the biology of the system has not evolved anywhere near as rapidly as technology has. And we really haven't changed all that much since not very long ago. Sure. So like before artificial lights, even, that was not that long ago. Like evolution takes a long time. So even just having artificial light impacting when our body thinks it's sleepy time, like just something that subtle has impacted women's hormones in atrocious ways, right? Like, so things like this and the individualism, to the extent that it has been prioritized in our society over the communal nature that is why we have survived, right? Like the only reason humans are here is because we had each other. If we didn't have each other, we wouldn't be here, right? Like if it wasn't a communal effort, there is absolutely no chance that we would have survived. 100%. So, right. And we know, like neuroscience we know that we are wired for connection. We know that a huge facet of our health is rooted in how our relationships feel. This isn't like a debatable thing. We have seen it and we've known it, and we know it ancestrally. We know it primally, that like we need each other tremendously. And I think that's one of the biggest deprivations. Like I think we could deal with all of our blue lights and our weird wires in the sky and in the ocean. I think we could find, like, I don't know that that's something that we can change, but I do think that we can change the way we are with each other and the way we participate in our relationships, and the impact that has on our biology it's beyond miraculous. Like what I have watched happen in groups of people when they come together and they're just sitting near each other, having feelings near each other. It's like, this is clearly how we are designed, right? We are designed to like grieve collectively. We're designed to support each other in hard moments, in not the way we think, not the like, I'm going to impose some unsolicited advice on your moment because I know stuff and it's going to make me feel good about myself to do so. Like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about like, I'm here next to you while you feel that really hard thing that I can't infiltrate, but I can sit with you while you feel it. Like that kind of stuff is so, there's such a starvation for that. And I think we really ache for it more than we realize. And yeah, so what you're speaking to is just that we haven't evolved as far past our cave people time biologically. And so bodies want to sleep when it's dark and wake up when it's light, but they don't remember that anymore because they can't sense themselves, and they're reading the stimulus the best that they know how, but they're using an old textbook, right? Like they're going by what it always was, which was the sun and the moon and the, you know, the tides and the weather, right? So that's why you feel the weather, you feel the, like your body does feel those things, you just maybe don't notice or are so far removed from nature, your own nature, community, kinship. Like that'll starve a person out of everything we need to thrive, right? Like of everything we need to feel truly alive in our life. Take away, you know, our relationship to nature, our awareness, and again, relationship to where our food comes from and our experience of preparing it and our experiencing of receiving it with our families. Like that, all of that changes how you digest, it changes how you sleep, so that all changes your hormones, and then that changes, you know. And we can blame all of the chemicals in the everything, but the reality is our processors, they can handle, this is an interesting thing that they're learning now, they can handle detoxifying those things when we have tended to the emotional backlogs. When there is a toxin backlog and an emotional backlog, the system is overloaded. Like just, it's too many things to digest. And so if we can tend to the stuff that we can together, I think we have a significantly better shot at a life that feels like it's worth living, from my perspective.
It's funny, while you were saying that, my mind thought of something that I was going to share with you on our next call, and I thought, well, I'll just wait. And then my brain's like, nah, let's just throw it out there today.
Let's just do it.
So, fun fact and TMI listeners, my body likes to freeze in moments of stress because that's its reaction that it's had. And I'm learning to help that not always be the reaction. As a result, I have this fun thing. My entire 37th year of life has revolved a lot around pooping, or actually the lack of it, more than anything, right? So the constipation, it's just a whole constant, it's a constant piece of my life, right? Well, coming and starting to work at the studio throws me off a little from my normal pattern, right? So I've been working with trying to get my body to understand that it's okay. It's safe. We can do that. So this week on Tuesday, I went to lunch with this gentleman who moved into town, and we had such beautifully great conversation. Went home and went to the bathroom.
Of course.
Wednesday, lunch with my mother and my cousin. Went home and went to the bathroom. I was like,
Peopling.
Isn't that interesting? Let me spend a little not work-related time. Like, I'm not Jamie boss lady mode. I'm spending like emotionally calm, simple time, because both of those experiences too, I wasn't worried about how I looked. I wasn't worried about who I was showing up as. I was just myself. I didn't have to prepare anything and come in with my bag full of things for people to do. I was just showing up and being me, and my heart wide open, and my body responded in such a beautiful fashion.
Yes.
And that is a perfect example of what you're saying. So like, as you were saying, I'm like, well, I guess I'm going to tell everybody about my poop, because that's a real life example that just happened of evidence of it is the part. And that's the part that I have the least of as far as in my world, because I did isolate so much. Yeah. And then some of my relationships had become not as healthy for me to be around as much. And so that's one of the things we talk about the most is getting to be in, like Casey, my cousin Casey helps a lot with that because she can be in my space at any time and I don't feel stress with her. So having some of those relationships, but just as a perfect example, TMI guys, sorry about that, but it's just the flipping reality of the thing. But that's really the real life example of everything you just described that happens in our system when we actually let it have those effortless connections with community. Where I gave to them in a conversation they gave to me, we consumed really good food together. We sat, like it was a very easeful situation. And I haven't had space or made space to do that a lot lately, right? So it definitely helped. The other thing, Jess, that I was thinking about when you were describing Titrate that I thought would be kind of fun to hear from your perspective is the evolution of Operation Do to Operation Be. Because you watched it happen. You're watching it happen. You're watching me when I'm struggling because it's not happening.
Yep. And I remember having that conversation with you of just like, maybe this is what's happening, is that it's not that you stop doing, it's are you being while you're doing? It's like, is the being at the forefront and the doing is what brings you joy, right? In the way you be in your life. And again, like it always comes down to like, what's that conversation like? What's your relationship like to the moment, to your people, to yourself? And that changes the activity itself, right? So we talked about this, like it might not be about how much is on the to-do list, but the quality of your presence as you move through it. And are we doing things out of obligation? Are we doing things out of pressure that we put on ourselves? Are we doing things to be something for someone that we think they expect of us? Or are we really listening to what feels in integrity at the deepest place within ourselves that feels like almost like right relationship? Like you can tell when we're in right relationship with self, with each other, with all those things. And I feel like what I've watched in you is you're always going to be a badass with getting shit done. And that's important. Like we have to get shit done. I'm not saying go just stare at a tree for the rest of your life. That would be lovely. But I think we have other things we want to do too, right? Like we have stuff. I'm very much a person who I get a lot of things done. And if and when at any time it starts to feel like the doing is trumping the being.
Yep.
I have to refine in those moments because I'm like, am I able to be present while I do this thing, whatever the thing is? And if not, can I examine that a little bit so that it's your quality of life and your quality of life informs the quality of whatever you do as well.
Yeah.
Right? So there's a potency that is missing when your own life force is missing from the action of doing the thing. So like you might think, or people out there might think, people who like to get lots of shit done, well, it got done, right? Like I checked it off. I did it. But like, were you in it? Because if you can't feel yourself in it, especially if it's any kind of creative work or passion work,
yeah,
might as well not have, I think. Like at that point, it's missing the magic.
When it turns into the anxieties and the stressors and the self-deprecating thoughts and the lack of confidence comes from those things. Like I think about when I am truly in my body, sitting in a room, having a conversation. I've had to have a lot of really, really hard conversations with people over the last 4 months of my life in this new business role, right? A lot of really hard things. And the cool part is, there's only been maybe like 2 instances where I have questioned myself at all, or I've been like, oh gosh, did I say that right? And what I equate that to is the fact that you can be someone who says and mentally wants to always act from integrity, and that's beautiful. But if you're not feeling it while you're doing it, then I know that that's always been a value for me. But then when I would go and do do it and I was not there in the room, I would question and I would feel guilty. And did they hear me wrong? Do they not like me anymore? Da, 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 like all the things. And now it's like, I feel so strongly about the fact that what I'm doing is from a place of honesty and care and like isness. Like this is the what it is. And it's not emotional and it's not, but it's being presented from a place of caring. But I'm so in the room that I don't go over it 1,000 times in my head to wonder if I did the right thing or said the right thing. And that's a huge difference. I think that people don't understand how they get to, maybe, you know, and I didn't understand how to get to it until I was doing it. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. You're cultivating self-trust, right? Like you're cultivating, again, self-trust, self-relationship, and the ability to take responsibility for how you show up and then let everyone else take responsibility for themselves.
Yeah.
And that's, I think that differentiation and that discernment that you've cultivated too, where it's like, I'm responsible for what I add to the conversation. I'm responsible for the care with which I deliver it. I'm responsible for the texture of my presence when I bring anything into any room. I'm not responsible for what feelings it stirs up in someone else or whether or not they have the capacity to bring those feelings forward, any of those things, right? Like we can only contribute the best that we can to a collective space, right? And sovereignty within a collective is a huge value for me, where it's like, I'm responsible for this. I'm accountable for this. And I'm always going to be doing my best. And I want to always feel like people can communicate with me if they need to about anything that I'm doing, right? It's not like I'm not open to having the conversations, but I'm also, there's a discernment of where that line of responsibility falls in relationship of like, especially you and I, because we have that kind of recovering aspects of people pleasing that we have experienced in our lives, where it's like, let me manage your feelings before you have them, right? It's something that we have learned to be very hyper aware of at a very young age, of like, let's just make sure that this room feels how I need it to, even though I'm wildly uncomfortable, right? Like there's almost like there's no way of really truly setting the temperature in the room without sacrificing yourself, right? So it's like allowing people to be whatever temperature they are, and knowing that you're being truthful to yourself and you're knowing that you're bringing your heart. And I think that also comes with, I think, the emotional maturity to go, I can acknowledge that this much frustration is about this situation and this much frustration is about the last 20 years of my life. Right? Like, to be able to do that, that's how you know how much frustration is for this moment and how much is older. And I think that if we have the ability to take responsibility for that, I think that changes the trajectory of how our relationships feel. And I've watched that self-trust build in you, where you're like, no, I felt good about that. I felt good about the way that I said that needed to be said. Whereas prior, it might have sat in the stew for a long time, right? It might have been this thing where it was like, I'm not sure if this is worth the drama or worth the PR situation, right? Like, but sometimes it's like your heart, your honesty, your health is always worth bringing what's true in your system, especially if it's affecting you physically. Like if you're noticing that something is happening and I need to name the thing that is happening, because if I can't, then these aren't the people that I want to spend my life with. There's going to be a lot of people that live in my neighborhood. I don't need to go over their house for dinner. But the people that I choose to go over their house for dinner, I should be able to say whatever I need to say with those people. And if I can't, then I need to change whose house I'm going to.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So something I know you're really good at, because you've cultivated this fiercely for yourself, that I would love for you to share is, what are the things that you do regularly, your habits that help you stay in body and stay present?
I have a pretty intense skincare routine. So like habitually, like I'm talking about little stuff first, because this is the stuff that starts it, right? Like it's how do you wash your face will tell me everything. Right? This is what I grew up watching my mom do. Like, you're supposed to be careful, right? Like, there's this tenderness and care in presence of how you treat your skin as your largest organ that I think tells me a lot about how bodies are cared for, how much they're prioritized. So I have many small habits that contribute to how I feel. A lot of them have to do with pause. So most of the time, it's how much I'm able to slow down and whether or not I'm willing to pause that helps me to know that I'm in here, right? So pausing before making a decision about what's going in my body, pausing about making a decision about whether or not I want to go somewhere, whether or not I want to do something. Being able to look at my schedule and say, is there anything on this that I don't have to and don't want to do? Right? Is there anything that I'm committing to that feels like it's too much? And then being okay with removing those things, because these are the things that will create a disharmony in my system, because I will have felt one thing and be doing something else. And that out of integrity experience in the system is where the trust is broken. It's like, you weren't there for me. The body will speak like, hey, you're not hearing me, right? I think the willingness and flexibility to change my mind is one of the biggest gifts I give myself, like at any moment, because it's not, will I uphold my commitments to the best of my ability? Yes. And if and when there's a moment that I need to change my mind because it's in everyone's best interest that I do so, then I have to give myself that capacity. And so I've gotten really good at that. That's something that I feel like I've improved on tremendously. And I wiggle and make a lot of sounds pretty much all day long. I mean, my it's no longer a let's go on my mat for an hour. It's like my whole day is just kind of like whenever it's there, and it moves, right? So I give my body the freedom to express. I let myself fidget if I need to, even if it's random and inappropriate and I want to reach for my toes in a given, that's what my body wants to do. So you guys can deal with the fact that my head's down here. I can still hear you. It's fine, right? Like things like that, where in certain situations, it's like, no, you sit this way and you're facing this way, especially, in formal, I don't think I do well in a boardroom in general, but like, you're supposed to sit like this. You're supposed to conduct yourself. I don't do that at all, right? Like if I want to cross my legs in a chair, I'm going to, like this way. If I want to stand up and walk around or wiggle, I'm going to, even if people around me are like, this is strange. Because I think what's strange is asking bodies to behave like machines when they are only experiencing the world as organisms. Like every other animal just does what it does. We think we need to be positioned in a certain way, and then we end up in a ton of pain because a body that loses motion rapidly deteriorates. So we have to keep moving. And I think that's another thing. Like I have to keep moving, give myself a lot of really intentional touch. And I've noticed, this is a big thing I've noticed with bodies in teaching and leading movement spaces, how quickly it's like, this hurts, let's stick something in it immediately, right? Like you notice and you barely got the words out and you've got your fingers in the problem. First of all, we're identifying it as a problem rather than a communication. And second of all, we are immediately deciding that we know exactly how to fix the problem and it's with force. Without ever being willing to observe it for a moment. Like, what if all it wanted was a little bit of breath and sound or a change in your position? What if it didn't need to be poked? And sometimes a good poke is helpful, but give it a second. Right. Give it a second to actually communicate what it might need. So that's another thing that I feel like I do intuitively now at this point where it's like, it feels habitual. Yeah. Just check in and say what would feel like the right thing. And
can you give a quick explanation just for those of us or listeners that don't understand necessarily what the sound does for that? Like when you feel a sensation or you feel uncomfortable or something, what that sound is moving or how it works?
Yeah. I mean, anybody who's super interested in this, like, if you go down the rabbit hole of the science of sound healing and vibration, I encourage you to explore that. If you're like, I want to really deeply understand the science, and we know if you actually go into how certain medical tools work, there are waves of sound, like an ultrasound, like there's waves of sound that like do things to body, like that help us to be in conversation with body. But we do know that different frequencies, vibrations, and sounds support processes in our biology, right? So the body responds to different sounds differently. We know this. I don't know if you've ever seen when they like clip the things on the leaves and the leaves are like, whoa, having like a moment, right? Because living organisms are a vibrational frequency, right? Like there's a vibration that happens. And so sound, when you make sound, you are moving, vibrating your system in a way that supports you returning to equilibrium. Now, an additional scientific layer of this is your vagus nerve, which happens to be where sound comes, like right around where all the sounds come from, right? So where your vagus nerve is and what it's responsible for supporting your autonomic nervous system to go, oh, okay, we're safe again. And so the vibration of like everything's okay, there's so many really interesting signals that sends. One of them is when you're terrified in a very dangerous situation, the sound you make or don't make is communicating safety or unsafety to the body. So if you're screaming, your vagus nerve is like, that's terrifying, something scary is happening, right? If you're silent and you feel like you can't speak, it might be because you're hiding from danger. And so then a little bit of a hum is almost like your body going, oh, I guess it's safe to hum. If it's in your body and it wants to move and you don't allow it, you're constipating an aspect of your system, right? So there is a detoxification of everything that your body's constantly trying to do. It's trying to move new in and old out is how you stay alive, right? It's relieving toxins through all these other doorways, and sound is just another doorway of like, when you're frustrated, there's a sound, you just may not always make it. And sometimes when you let that happen, it helps that emotion move faster, which is what we've kind of witnessed in spaces.
Yeah. Well, and guys, like for example, like, so Tony knows this now because he sat in session with Jessi and I. And like, so when I'm having a moment or my body is on the verge of a panic, he'll be like, do you want to hum with me? Come on, why don't you hum with me? I'm like, okay, let's hum. Because oftentimes I'm like, and he's like, let's hum. I'm like, yes, sir.
And then you have the additional co-regulation. You have him there too, so that's huge.
Yeah. Yeah. So it definitely works, guys. I tell people that too, around people who have anxiety attacks or panic attacks. I'm like, this and this, tapping on your bones. That was a gift you gave me. Especially when I'm flying on an airplane, I have to become very aware of my bones on an airplane or it doesn't go well.
Your bones are like, we aren't meant to fly.
Right. Why are we in the sky? Yeah. Right. This is not right. We are Earth people. Well, Jess, here's the deal. You and I could talk for hours about 1,000 other things. And so I know that we talked about doing multiple different combo type of conversations, but I think this was a good introduction into something that I think a lot of people don't realize is available to them, that this is the kind of work that's available to really set themselves free, really, from a world and potential illness where like lots of different types of trauma that have happened and are just sitting in you like, yuck. So I would love it if you could tell people what would be the best way for them to support you or find you online right now.
Sure.
And then we'll link it all below.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, Instagram at Jessi Magick, which you can always find me there. The magic has a K and Jessi has just an I. And you can always email me if you're just like, that was interesting, that conversation you had with Jamie. Where might I start with exposure to some of the kinds of experiences? Because the embodiment modality that I've built, I've got some free resources that you could just do at your house and see how it feels and have that experience. And then a lot of what I do, especially in person, in addition to supporting people privately, is a lot of community related stuff. Like we're building a village in Costa Rica, and we host retreats and gatherings where people come together and we be together, right? We make noises, we breathe, we feel, we celebrate, we grieve, we are human together. And I spend a lot of my life cultivating spaces where gets to be possible, because I was really not okay with the fact that it didn't exist in the world. So that's what I pour myself into, really.
It's beautiful. I love it. Thank you so much. And I love you. And I'm so grateful that you came today. So as always, guys, if you liked this conversation or found any value from it, please make sure to let us know in the comments and share this over to anybody that you think would benefit from it. If you have not already left a review on one of the audio platforms, please do. That does nothing but help us get the podcast in front of more people. And on YouTube, if you've not subscribed, make sure you do that, hit that like button, and leave us a comment of something you learned, or even a question, because I can ask Jessi and we can get you answers that way too, if you'd like. So thank you for being here, and until next time, guys, see ya. Thank you for listening to Operation B, the podcast. To support this message and to support the show, please make sure that you like, follow, and share the podcast wherever you enjoy listening. And be sure to leave us a review on iTunes. Thank you for being here, and see you next time.